class is called as base class, super class, or parent class. The base class, super class, or parent class, and the new class which is created from the old class, extending in terms of Java. So it is called as derived class, subclass, or child class. So child and parent is the word which is not used in the slide, which is visible to you right now. So parent class and child class, that we know. It is just a simple startup for the discussion here. So now single inheritance. So why we need inheritance? There are some data values or there are some functionalities which are available in parent class, and we want to use it in a child class. We will see each type of inheritance in detail. So initially, whenever the interviewer is convinced that you know what is inheritance, that the properties available in parent class are used in a child class, and why we are creating the child class, because child class is a customized version for your work. So someone will specify it and you will create child class. So as you can see on the screen, so what's visible on your screen, if you are able to watch the screen, write the name of a god in chat box, which is on the screen right now. I'm reading the chat box. Yeah. So ये बीच बीच में करते रहना पड़ता है, क्या पता लोग जान रहे हैं कैसे हो रहा है. For that reason. So uh, single inheritance. See, in this whole inheritance, we will use the example like this. So what we will do, we will take 5 to 10 minutes to quickly go through all the types of inheritance. A favorite question in interview: what is inheritance, and then what are the different types of inheritance? Third level question, that which type of inheritance you will use for which particular application. Can you explain with the example? Because whatever you are going to do in industry, no one is going to tell you that while writing the code, do this, do that, use inheritance, use polymorphism, use operator overloading, use function overloading, use friend function. No one is going to tell you. They will just tell you the task. Based on that story, that task, you will be writing the code for inheritance. So there are huge number of features and huge number of functionalities which are available with uh, God Vishnu. So we will be creating a customized version for any particular time and space. Okay, and that particular time and space is the yuga in which Bhagwan Krishna is born. So out of that, you use some functionality. So some functionality. Now there is a question for you people to make session interactive. Some functionality which is available in parent class, it can be used in child class. So tell me one functionality which is available in parent class here, okay, which can be used in a child class, which is used. ऐसे कौन सी फंक्शनलिटी है जो ऊपर भी अवेलेबल है पेरेंट क्लास में और वो चाइल्ड क्लास में भी कभी कभी यूज होती है. यू कैन यूज इट. Good. Expected answer. Okay, good. So that is a functionality which is available in parent class and is used in a child class. So one thing is confirmed, that now you remember what is the inheritance, what is the meaning of the functionality available in parent class is used in a child class. Sudarshan Chakra and looking at the future and there are some flying and everything is available in child class also. So that was the first type where there is only one parent class and one child class. It is called as single inheritance and there is only one level, A to B. Directly you are generating it. As number of types, see, whenever you are learning only one type, there is no confusion. But whenever you are learning multiple types, you will get confused. I will tell you where is the confusion and what is the exact place where you will give wrong answer in interview. So inheritance, that you are creating a child class who can inherit the features of parent class, or you can use the features of a parent class, and how that will see through the code. But first thing we will go through the concepts of single level inheritance, single inheritance. Now multiple inheritance. See, there are two concepts, multiple inheritance and multi-level inheritance, which are generally confusing. So multiple inheritance in which there are multiple parents. Single inheritance, there is one parent. Multiple inheritance, there are multiple parents who are combining their feature to create a customized class uh, as per requirement for specific work. For example, you can remember the multiple inheritance like this. Uh, so this is the picture of home, right in chat box. Sorry. So multiple inheritance, there are multiple parent classes which combine their feature, whose feature can be used by one child class. So this child class is actually combination of, is inheriting the features from parent number one, parent number two, parent number three. So it is using the feature from all three parent classes. Okay, so I told you one question here which is quite confusing, which is that multiple and multi-level. So whenever there is a multi-level, I will tell you, and I will tell you the trick to remember it. Okay, it's easy. So multiple inheritance, single level inheritance, there is only one parent, one child. Multiple inheritance, multiple parent and one child. Then hierarchical inheritance. So hierarchical inheritance, there is one parent, and by using some features of a parent, multiple children are created. Child classes are created, or subclasses or derived classes are created. For example, by using one parent class, we can create child number one, child number two, and child number three. Now, why we need this kind of inheritance? The question is, see, in the background of your mind, always this will be the story, but whatever you speak will be quite different. How it will be that as per the requirement, as per the requirement of a situation from the parent. So who is parent? Parent is pool of all the powers or all the functionalities. And whenever you create a child, out of those functionalities, you will inherit some of the features and customize them. You can modify them, override the functionality that you will see in function overriding. Okay, so and virtual class especially. So the higher level stuff will go in a virtual class and the runtime polymorphism. From one hello. So am I audible? If you can hear me, right? Okay in chat box. So what we are seeing till now is single inheritance whenever there is one parent and one child. Then multiple inheritance, there are multiple parents and which are combining their some or all. It is not necessary all the features will be taken. Some of the features will be taken and a new parent child will be formed. And the hierarchical inheritance when there is one parent or super class or base class from which we are creating multiple derived class or subclass or child classes. And next level of the next inheritance is multi-level inheritance. So in multi-level inheritance, which often people confuse, and generally interviewer will try to confuse you with the multiple inheritance and multi-level inheritance, is is the features from class A, means grandparent, will be inherited by B, and the child of class B can use the properties of A and B both. That is, C can be used by A and B both. Okay, you will remember the example. So, who's this guy? The picture there in the corner, writing chat box. I'm actively reading the chat box, and as long as you are talking, we are here. So whose picture is this? We are looking at the multi-level inheritance. So he pass on the powers to other guy, Rohit, and he pass on the power to the, so that is class A, class B, class C. The powers of class A means the functionalities in power A, functionalities of class A will given will be given to the class B. When you create it, you inherit it. And now functionalities of class B and A combined will come as a superior powers into the third class, class C. So class C, the name of a class C is, this time I will write the answer in chat box. It's Krish. So that is multi-level inheritance. So part of the part where you will get confused is what is difference between multi-level and multiple inheritance? Multi-level, you create a levels hierarchy. So Jadu, Rohit, and Krish. So that is a level which you create. And in case of multiple inheritance, multiple parents are there which are creating one child class. Okay, so is it clear so far? Right, clear in chat box if you have understood. So the thing is, first question will be what is inheritance? Second question is what are the different type of inheritance? Okay. So now we'll move to the next type of inheritance, that is hybrid inheritance. In hybrid inheritance, you will use multiple combinations because it is not having any fixed formula. So you will combine multiple type of inheritance. So here you will see A is having two child B and C and combining B and C, you are creating a new child called D. So here A, B, C, this relationship is hierarchical inheritance, and you are using B and C to create a child D, that is multiple inheritance. Okay, so you are combining multiple type of inheritance. Uh, if you read the book, you will see the example uh, which are related to some other stuff. I will show you something different. So, for example, there are prehistoric cats. So, millions of years ago, the animals used to be like this. And from then, actually, after evolution, there comes two type of different cats. So, if you know that tiger and lion both belongs to the cat category. So, two categories, cat and lion. But human beings are so much naughty, or what you can say, scientists are so many experimental that they tried to create a new species. So what they did, uh, एक नया species बनाया, okay, which was lion का male, tiger का female, and they create a new species called liger. Okay, so this example will actually help you, and so many other experiment they did. For example, tiger का अगर male है और लायन की फीमेल है तो टाइलॉन नाम का एक एनिमल है विच इज एक्चुअली कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ दीज टू. ओके, सो ये हमने कर रखा. सो समटाइम्स फॉर द पर्टिकुलर रिक्वायरमेंट यू हैव टू take some of the features from one class and another feature from another class. Okay, and then you create this one. So what we have seen till now, that this is hybrid inheritance. You are combining the multiple type of inheritance to create a new product or new class. So going back, so why we are using inheritance? Inheritance where we use the parents class feature in child class, and why we are doing it for the sake of reusability. Type 1 single inheritance where there is one parent and one child. Type 2 multiple inheritance whenever there are multiple parents and one single child, or there are multiple parents and less number of a child. Now, when one or more than new classes are derived from the single base class, so there is one parent and multiple child classes, it is called as hierarchical inheritance. Multi-level inheritance where you create levels of inheritance. So when a new class is derived from another derived class, and it can have a complete chain in the inheritance. Then hybrid inheritance when you derive the class by using mixture of different methods. So you are combining multi-level with multiple with single inheritance, something like that. So this is what the analogy which will help you to remember the type of inheritance. Okay, so those who understood up to this part, see, we have gone through only two questions. Question number one, what is inheritance? Question number two, that what is use of inheritance? And the next question will be more probably what are the different type of inheritances you know. So those who understood, write tiger in chat box. Then we'll see the same thing in terms of code. Okay, so we have seen two, three questions. Question number one, what is inheritance? Question number two, why we are having this feature of inheritance in object-oriented programming language, no matter whichever language. If you go for Java developers interview or C++, any object-oriented programming language, this is just a way to check how much you have understood the programming language. Generally, whenever you will use and everything, it will be whole different. But as a fresher, they are just interested to check whatever you study how much you can understand, because no one knows anything completely. What they can do, whatever you have studied, they will ask you what are your favorite subjects. So if you are good in the subjects which you have studied, that means if whatever subject you are going to study, whatever technology you will be studying, you will become ultimately good in that also. So that is why first, sometimes to break the ice, they will ask you the question, what are your favorite subjects, and especially if you are talking about programming language, they will ask you, okay, which programming language you are comfortable with. So if you apply for the Microsoft or Google or some product based company, they will require you to be good at least one programming language, anyone, fine. and they will give you the programs related to the inheritance or something like that, or it will be combined with the data structures and algorithm, and they will give you some specific requirement, and they are just interested to know that whether you can solve the problem or not. So they are not behind that, searching for the skill. Okay, they don't need a Java programmer or C++ programmer. They are looking for someone who can learn programming language, who can understand programming, who knows coding well, because language changes but the logic remains same. So they are looking for the problem solving capability. And if you go for the service based companies, they are looking for someone who can understand and handle their systems well. They are not interested in creating a new creative product. So based on the type of company and kind of a job role you are having, the questions will be asked. So if you go for the programmer's interview, definitely you will face one question from this whole subject, which will be either related to the class, object, and function overloading, function overriding, that zone, call by value, call by reference, and uh, second phase, it will be related to the inheritance, operator overloading, and virtual class and all. So up to that, the discussion will. Uh, this will be the syntax, and many languages have the same syntax. Here is, if you talk about C++, there was one extra activity called visibility mode. So if you are inheriting it, so whether you are inheriting it in a public mode, private mode, or protected mode. So we'll directly go to the example because it is quite complex. So single inheritance, this is actually a corner shotgun, and it is example of, just if you look at the gun, it is example of single inheritance. But actually, if you look at the complete technology developed in a gun, apart from a normal gun, there are so many other things. Okay, so you can search this word corner shotgun, and you will see what are the different features this gun is having. Then, now let us see the simple example. See, there is one advice from my side whenever you go for the interview, especially face-to-face interview, not online interview. Always have a pen and paper, and whatever you are speaking, you should explain with the code, or you should draw something visually so that it is understandable for the person who is sitting in front of. So, and always keep some handy small piece of code in your mind for every concept you are studying. For example, if you want to talk about the inheritance, you should have some code which you can write in 10 to 15 seconds while you are talking to the interviewer. So you can simply say that, okay, sir, let us say there is a class base which have one variable x. See, this code which you are seeing on a screen right now, it is very simple code that it is having only one variable, one simple function which is just printing something, and one derived class which is having another variable which is private in nature, and then your read data and product and everything. The read data and calculating the product. So even though it is a single inheritance and very simple example, but you should be able to write that simple code with a minimum number of lines. See, interaction between you and interviewer, it will be around 15 to 20 minutes, and maximum it will be half an hour maximum. So in that duration, they are expected to judge your skill, and you are urged to write the code, and whether you are able to write it or not. So you have cleared your technical round, and you have cleared your, let us say, coding round also. Okay, but still, whatever example you are explaining to them, it should be simple and clear so that without putting any effort, they should understand. See, effortlessly, it should be understandable. Whenever you write something in a paper, as I told you in previous sessions, we are for us, for teachers, it is compulsory to read everything which you have written and give you marks, whatever you have written, by searching the meaning in it. Okay, but the interviewer is not bounded to do that. If he don't like whatever you talk, and if he is not in the state of mind to listen to you, then he is not obligated to select you or listen to you. So you have to create something which will catch their attention. So one of the best technique is draw something on a paper diagrammatically. So if he is a visual learner, he will listen to you, or else you will write a code. So some people will get impressed, okay, you are writing the code and then you are explaining the concept. So you are talking about the concept, you are writing the code. That is why whenever you prepare for an interview, make sure you have a small example related to each and every concept. You are talking about single inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, something like that, virtual class and all. So whatever concept you are having, small, very small, minimum, viable type of a prototype code you should have. to explain. That will really help you to prove that, okay, you know the concept and you know the concept well. Not only just theory, you understand the code also, and you can write the code while talking. So these two activities actually help. Okay, so if you understood what I told you, you should have a small code in your mind whenever you are explaining some concept to interviewer. So if you understood this concept, write word code in chat box. Now let us go through this code. So this is class base. So base is not a keyword, so you can use name of a class as a base. And there is a derived class, and we are creating a derived class in public manner. Derived class in a public manner, and base class is having one variable x, which is publicly available. So if the variable is private, it cannot be accessed from outside. That is what the meaning of private is. And if you don't write anything in C++, by default, it is private. If you want to make it public, you have to explicitly write, okay, I want to make this variable as public variable. Now, there is one function called getData, and you are simply accepting the value of x from the user, nothing else. So I'm keeping it very, very simple. Then simple, there is a private variable y, and I am just simply reading the value of y from the user, and product which is calculating x into y. It is a simple multiplication. Now, what is the catch here? Very simple multiplication where you can see this cross. Now see, the value of x is not available in derived class. Okay, x will be taken from the parent class and y is already available in a child class. We will go to the next part, which is derived A. So I am creating object of class A, derived. So derived class is this one, which is actually a child class. Just give me a second, I am writing it. So I am creating object of child class, and base is parent. So base is a parent class, and derived is a child class. Now here this one is clear. Now here we are creating object of a derived class and child class. Now I'm saying a dot get data, a dot read data. Let us go back to the okay function, sorry, class. So derived class, okay, and they are saying get data. Right, the first line is a dot get data. But the problem is, if you just go through the code of derived class, a dot get data function is not available in a child class. So it is not available. So it is available in a parent class. So whenever the function is not available in a child class, the control will go to the parent class and it will search, okay, whether that function is available in the parent class. And as you can see here, the function is available in a parent class. So it will access it from the parent class. So that is how we use inheritance. The functionality, which functionality? Get data. The functionality which is not available in a child class can be taken from the parent class, or you can say you can use the functionality of parent class in a child class. Example in terms of simple code is in front of you. Whenever you write a dot read data, now a dot read data, a is a object of class derived. So a read data function is available, so you can read the value of x. So by using get data function, you accepted the value of x from the user. Now it is available. Now when you are accepting the value by using read data function, you are having value of y there. And now third step you call the a dot product. So a dot product, it requires x into y. Now if you just look at the code of derived, the variable y is available in derived, but variable x is nowhere mentioned in the whole code, but it is available with the parent. So child के पास जो नहीं है वो अगर parent के पास हो तो वो access कर सकता है. That is again okay. So that is inheritance, that value of x is not available in a child class, but you can, it is available publicly in parent class. So it can be used for the calculation of x into y. Actually, in real life, you won't see the example like calculation of x and y. It will be, let us say, you want to calculate the tax, and the base class or parent class will contain the values of interest rate. So those interest rate will be variables which will be updated by someone else, and their owner of the class will be someone else. Your job is to write a code to use that interest rate to calculate the interest on the amount which is being deposited or uh, given to the person who is taking the loan, borrower of the money. Okay, so some of the x is under control of base class, which the variable which you are using in a child class. That is how it is being used. Now, when we will go one step further and we will see how it works. So let us say this is your memory. Memory means RAM. When you create class object of a derived class A. So this is your random access memory. So on that memory, it will create a object A because of this line. So derived A. That object will contain all the features of derived class. That means it will have one variable y. So let us actually draw the variable. So it will have one variable y whose value will be entered by the user. Then it will have one function read data and product. So it will have one function as read data, another function as a product, and to define this for product, you need a data from parent also. So it will contain the value of x. So value of x because it is with the parent. When a child is created, parent is also created. So it will get the get data function also, because without parent, child cannot be created. So this whole object A will contain these two variables and three functions. Okay, so if you create another object of derived class, means child class, it will occupy some space and it will have all the data items, means it will have its separate value of x, separate value of y, and three different functions. Okay, so that is why whenever you call a dot get data, it will call this function a dot get data. So it will call this function a dot get data. A dot read data, it will call this function a dot read data. So that is how the isolation is maintained. How so if you are creating object A, object B, object C, multiple objects, every object will load set of data items in the memory. So the object which is having the all the functions which are related to object A will be having separate values, B will be having separate values, so they do not cross each other's data. The way we have seen the example of IRCTC or some ticket booking example, analogy of that example, that we are all booking the ticket using same code, but for every one a new object will be created. So what is object? Object is an instance of class. Going back, what is class? Class is a collection of data items and methods. So why we need data items and method? First, different type of data items are required. Why? Because just think at the example of a ticket. You are on the railway ticket, your name is string, your age is integer, your amount is float, and your seat number, if it is a bus A, B, C, D, it will be character, your name will be string. So the ticket, logically speaking, is combination of a data items, as well as there are methods to calculate the fare and everything. So it is combination of data plus methods. That is why we are creating object, and for every person new object will be created. So here you can see it will occupy the space in a memory. So that is how it goes, a single inheritance. Okay, so do you have any doubt? And if it is clear, write single in chat box. Okay, not because someone is single, because we are looking at the single inheritance when where there is only one parent and one child, and it is simple stuff. और नेटवर्क डिले इतना ज्यादा है, मतलब आंसर भी 10-10 20-20 सेकंड बाद आ रहा है. Okay, am I audible? If you can hear me clearly, write A in chat box. A for audible. So that is a single level inheritance. Remember the tip that whenever you explain any concept to the interviewer, especially coding interview, make sure you write some relevant example, but you are not having time to think. So you should be always prepared with small example, small coding example to explain that you know that concept very well. Okay, and this will be useful for at least 4 to 5 years now onwards, because whenever I'm talking to my old students who are pass out, so they will work for 1 or 2 years and again they will open their books and study the object oriented concept, data structures and algorithm for their interviews, and the story remains same. Okay, so you should, so if you are explaining the solution, draw the solution, because human brain responds well for visual responses, visual stuff, instead of just looking at the dead, listening to the dead words, or looking at the dead figures. Okay, diagrams, actually diagrams and code is bit understandable as compared to theory which you are going to speak. So this will be the output, sample output. Now base class and publicly inheritance. So the variables are having three types: public variables, which you write in the class, private variables, and protected variables. So when a base class is publicly inherited, public member of the base class become the public member of derived class. So as we have seen the class base, so in the previous example, class base is having variable x, which is public, and from class base we derived a class D. So if X is public here, X will also available, and that too publicly available. But what is this meaning? What is the meaning of this publicly available? So if any third party application, any application who can create object of a child class. So third person, another code who will create object of child class, they can access the data of their parent class. Means it's interesting, right? मैं तुम्हें बोलता हूँ कि चलो फीस भरनी है, पैसे लेके आओ, तो तुम थोड़ी ना देते हो, तुम्हारे पापा देते हैं. So similarly, you talk to child and you get the money from the parent. That is what the analogy is. Okay, you create an object of class child and you get the data from the parent class. But now whenever the data is being accessed, ये थोड़ा सा गड़बड़ नहीं लगता सबको that child class and parent class, this relationship is used to access the data from the parent. So I'm talking to child and getting the data from the parent. So now parents तो ऐसा है नहीं कि मतलब जब चाहे जितने चाहे पैसे दे देंगे. Okay, amount of data you are giving. So that is why they used restrictions in programming so that they can protect the privacy of a data or restrict child class from sharing that data with someone else. And यहाँ पे जन्म हुआ फिर private public protected inheritance है. Okay, but it is controlled inheritance. So now next step. So first we have seen what is inheritance. Second, we have seen what is use of inheritance, what are the different type of inheritance, and we have seen the example of a single inheritance. Now we will go with the that visibility mode and what are the different type of inheritance, how we inherit it, and how we use inheritance in controlled manner to transfer the power to use any data item. Okay, so they are accessible to the object of derived class. So we create object of derived class means child class, and you can access the data of a child class that are not inherited in both cases, let us say public and private. See, private members of the base class are not inherited in both the cases. Remember this stuff. If the variable is private in parent class, it will never be inherited anyway. But that is why it is private. Private वो private होता है जिसे कोई और हाथ लगा नहीं सकता. Okay, so private, if the variable is private, it cannot be inherited. Okay, so by using parent class, so what is that? I will make it simple. So there is one class parent which contains the variable x, and if it is private, and if you create a child class c, and if you create object, so this person is object who wants to access the data x from the c child class, it will not allow, because child class can access only public and protected data members from the parent class. Now here is a confusion, area of confusion. Many times during the interviews they will ask, okay, they will create a scenario, if the data item is public in parent class and it is derived privately, then whether we can access it from the child class object or not. And it sounds very complicated when you listen to it. Okay, and you will get confused कि नहीं exactly कैसे होगा public private protected. See, the variables have three types: public, private, protected, and the derivation means the a child class creation can be done in three ways: public, private, protected, and each time there is a difference that whether that variable will be accessible from the ऑब्जेक्ट ऑफ चाइल्ड क्लास और नॉट. सो उसके आंसर भी अलग है. सो यहाँ पे एरिया बनता है कंफ्यूजन का, जहाँ पे आपको द इंटरव्यूअर कंफ्यूज करेगा. तो यू हैव टू सेव योर सेल्फ फ्रॉम दैट confusion, and it's really easy to remember. So the private member of a base class will never become member of derived class. Member of means what? This is the language which is in a Balaguru Swami's book, bookish language. It will become member of. Member of means something which is present inside the class. So member function means what? Inside the class the function is present written, so it becomes a member function. All the variable data variable in a class are member variables. Okay, so if you're not understanding right now, it's okay, fine, we'll see some examples and then you will understand. So now see this piece of a code. I will give you around 1 minute as such, and just look at the stuff, and after that I will explain. First you have to figure out कि इसमें हो क्या रहा है. Okay, so try to read the code. See, make a habit of reading the code, because in your life whenever you will be um, writing the code. Before that, if you are providing support or you are looking at the mistakes of others, you should be able to read the code. So you should have a habit to read the code and figure out कि इसमें कुछ mistake है क्या. So इसमें देखो output और ये दोनों दिया हुआ है, error भी दिया हुआ है. Read it and then I will explain. Read it, try to understand this slide on your own. Take just 1 minute of a time, not more than that, because we have many slides to cover. Okay, much more stuff is going to come. So take 1 minute, try to understand it, and then I will explain what are the things you have to see. This is code which I have written purposefully, making one mistake, and that mistake is explored here. Okay, to prove that okay यहाँ पे गड़बड़ होती है. To prove that one concept. Once you're done, write done in chat box. So look at this code. The parent class is medicine and tablet is a child class. For obvious reason, parent है medicine, a general category, and tablet is a child class. मैंने जानबूझ के क्या किया है, यहाँ पे कोई कोड नहीं लिखा. You can see, just wait. Red color already बहुत सारा है. So what I will do, I will change the color. I will use green. So see here, I haven't written any code here in child class to prove that we can access the data from parent class. Child के पास अपना कोई data नहीं है, कोई function नहीं है, nothing. So if you go to the main में देखो, we have created a object of child class. So tablet T. Tablet के पास खुद का कुछ भी data नहीं है. It is child of a parent class. And now I am trying to print in C++ t dot data. T dot data. Data मैंने एक imaginary variable ले लिया. Let us say it is price or quantity or something like that. T dot data is equal to T dot data I have tried to print and the value it is having 10. But as I have told you a few minutes back that whenever you are not writing anything for the variable access, a specifier, so it will be by default private. So int data is now a private variable, and I remember the line, if the data item in parent class is private, it cannot be inherited in child class. So ये वाला जो कोड है अगर तुमको दिखाया, या तो तुम एज ए एग्जाम्पल एग्जामिनर को इंटरव्यूअर को समझाओगे, और ही विल गिव द कोड एंड ही विल आस्क यू टू फाइंड आउट ओके कि ये काम करेगा कि नहीं करेगा. सो यू शुड से ओके इट विल गिव एरर. सो व्हाट काइंड ऑफ एरर इट विल गिव? Just you can see the red arrow here, which will catch your eyes at very first sight, that integer medicine data is private variable, and whenever the variable is private you cannot inherit, because I am asking child to get the data, private data item from the parent which is not available. If something is private, it is private, it cannot be accessed by anyone from outside. Any function which is present inside can access that data value. For example, if I write here any function inside the class medicine, that function can access the data value. Otherwise no one else from outside can access. No one can create object of, see this is also one of the question, remember कि child class का object करके parent के private data को access कर सकते हैं? Answer is no. Private is private. If you can create a object of a parent class itself and then you try to access, then also it is not allowed. Okay, तो पहला क्वेश्चन वो, दूसरा क्वेश्चन और डिफिकल्ट. So you can access it only through inside. See, language to language there might be some little bit difference, but if you're going with the C++, you should stay here. Okay, so we are trying to understand the relationship between in a single inheritance, but here we are talking about public, private and protected variables, and ये area of confusion है जिसका यूज इंटरव्यूअर करते हैं चेक करने के लिए कि तुमको कंसेप्ट का क्लैरिटी कितना है. Okay, so now you understood why you are getting error here. Okay, so those who, why we are getting error, because the value, the data item, the variable data is private in a parent class and it cannot be inherited or accessed using the object from outside. Okay, that is why it will give error कि नहीं है variable private, आप बाहर से access नहीं कर सकते. Even though you create object of a parent or child, you cannot access the data item which is private. So those who understood this concept, this code, uh, just give me a second, see this, then I will make only one change. What is that change? Here I made it public, and now if I write the same code, it will give the answer as 10. एक ही change किया, कौन सा वाला जो यहाँ है नहीं है और यहाँ पे है, that is I am declaring the variable, all the variables in a parent class as a public here. So बस ये जो red arrow जहाँ mark कर रहा है वहाँ पे अब देख लो, if you make it public, it will give the output as 10. Okay, so it is all about understanding in single inheritance. If you are inheriting the child publicly, okay, publicly, then whether we can access it or not. Okay, so it's all about public private stuff. So it is just simple example to understand this. So those who understood कि ये जो error आप देख रहे हो ये error क्यों आया वगैरह, those who understood, write private in chat box. See, I will be teaching only 1% of a part to remind you कि हाँ ऐसा भी कुछ था. बाकी 99% तुमको खुद से एक बार रिवाइज करना है. Just go through the top interview questions of OOPC. तो जितने भी parts है, क्योंकि read it once. क्योंकि हाँ याद आएगा, एक प्राइवेट होता है, पब्लिक होता है, प्रोटेक्टेड होता है, फिर ऐसे होता है, ये कोड में ये एग्जांपल आएगा, दिस एंड दैट. ओके, टू क्लियर द रिटर्न एंड programmers written, and so later when it will be combined with the data structures and algorithm, it will help you. Okay, highest level is like algorithms, सबके एंड में algorithm आता है, ये basic clarity है coding का. So in chat box some of the people have replied, good. Now we'll go to the next level of game, but now giving the uh, now meanwhile listen to me and just keep your eyes on the things which you are seeing on your screen. So you can write the name of a movie or the any character which you see on the screen. So just giving access of a variable to the child class is not good idea actually. So you have to control the transfer of those variable and their accessibility, the way this weapon, this hammers control, power control, yeah, it is Odin. So control, so you remember from the movie Thor, first movie 2011, that when he says, okay, whoever hold this hammer, who is worthy, can hold this hammer and will possess power of Thor. So someone who is worthy, he will get the powers. Similarly, whatever variables you are having, those variables may have a powers, because variables are containing some data which is useful for many applications, and no one should be able to steal that data. That is why you can restrict the inheritance. See, restricting the inheritance, कि मैं अपने पावर चाइल्ड को दे रहा हूँ, चाइल्ड किसी और को नहीं दे सकता, that effect you can create. Okay, or I am giving power to some application and that application pass on that power to someone else. So मैं power तुम्हें दे रहा हूँ, तुम किसी और को दे सकते हो. That can also be done. Okay, so it's all about controlling the power. Now the Odin is putting all, Odin is the one who can hold the hammer and put a curse, or what we can say, spell on the hammer. And now in Age of Ultron, the whole team tries to lift the hammer. Okay, सब लोग मतलब Iron Man is trying, and Captain America just was able to move that hammer, and in Endgame we have seen he actually fights with the hammer. So everyone tries. So all the class try to access the variable, but it can be accessed by only that class who is worthy. Okay, so War Machine and Iron Man both are trying together. So similarly, you can create, even Hulk cannot pick it up. So similarly, we can create this stuff, that whatever variable we are having in a class, whatever methods or functions we are having in a class, we can put our spell in terms of code. Okay, so spell in terms of code to control the access of those variable by outsider. That outsider can be a child class, or that variable can be anything else, child class or any outsider. Okay, so I hope you understood the analogy, that why we want to create it. Now inheritance. So first you publicly inherited the values. We have seen the example. Now in last lecture, whatever value means, the link I have given you, the Google Drive's link. On that link, you will find these PPTs of whatever subjects I have taught. So OOPC I was teaching recently, and apart from that, whatever subject I am teaching, I keep the PPT there. So in future, if student require that PPT, you will be able to get it, and even after getting pass out also, because I have kept that folder. Anyone on the internet with the link can view the content, and owner, even if I leave the organization, still it will be there. Okay, so in future whenever you remember कि नहीं मुझे cracking coding interview का book चाहिए, या फिर how many of you have downloaded that book from the drive? Okay, cracking coding interview, two books I have kept there. Interview preparation, placement preparation के folder के अंदर, that cracking coding interview and data structures and algorithm made easy by Narsimha Karumanchi. Anyone downloaded? Those who downloaded, write D in chat box. D for download. You should know it is there. तुम्हें बस पता होना चाहिए कि वहाँ पे है, डाउनलोड करना है. इन फ्यूचर कभी नसीब अच्छा हो और तुमको कोई फ्रेंड मिल जाए तो तुमको गूगल में जाने के लिए रेकमेंड करे, तो वो वाले क्वेश्चन अमेजोन में, गूगल में, फेसबुक में जाने के लिए रेकमेंड करे. ओके, क्योंकि क्या है, आईआईटी एनआईटी में जाती है, तो आईआईटीज में मोस्टली गूगल विल गो, एंड वहीं वाले बच्चे को मौका मिलता है उनके लिए अपीयर करने का, एंड ऑल दोस पीपल प्रिपेयर फ्रॉम बाय रीडिंग दोज बुक्स. ओके, सो अगर तुम्हें कभी तुम्हारा कोई दोस्त मिलता है जो आईआईटीएन वगैरह हो और वो वहाँ पे काम कर रहा हो, एंड इफ ही रेफर्स यू, ओके आई विल शेयर, इफ ही रेफर्स यू, देन गो प्रिपेयर्ड लाइक अ हेल. डेटा स्ट्रक्चर पढ़ो, एल्गोरिथम पढ़ो. देखो अमेजोन, एडब्ल्यूएस एंड ये नोड जावा, उनको कोई लेना देना नहीं है टेक्नोलॉजी से. दे सेड वो खुद टेक्नोलॉजी बनाने वाली कंपनी है. सो दे जस्ट नीड अ ब्रेन विच कैन वर्क, हु कैन कोड, हु कैन सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम. उनको बाकी चीज़ों से कोई लेना देना नहीं है. ओके, सो यू विल गो थ्रू द बुक एंड यू विल अंडरस्टैंड. बुक में कॉन्फिडेंटली, दोनों बुक्स में लिखा गया है कि प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड कंपनी में ये इंटरव्यू क्रैक करने के लिए बुक लिखा गया है. टिपिकली नरसिम्हा करुमंची आईआईटी बॉम्बे का पास आउट है, और उसने अपने आईआईटीएन भाइयों के लिए लिखा हुआ बुक है कि यू कैन प्रिपेयर द प्लेसमेंट, एंड पीपल, आईआईटीएंस, प्रिपेयर फ्रॉम दोज बुक्स ओनली. ओके, सो राइट नाउ आई एम नॉट यूजिंग माई पीसी एंड इट इज़ नॉट माई लॉग इन ऑल्सो. मेरे पीसी में थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है, बट जो जिसके पास सी वालों के पास मेरा नंबर है, एंड दे विल कॉन्टेक्ट एंड आई विल प्रोवाइड द नंबर टू देम. ओके, सॉरी, द लिंक. और कंप्यूटर इंजीनियरिंग में सबके पास वो लिंक होती ही है. सो 6M कंप्यूटर इंजीनियरिंग में कोई भी दोस्तों से पूछना, नीलेश सर के फोल्डर वाली लिंक चाहिए. या फिर फर्स्ट ईयर में भी जिनको मैं पढ़ाता हूँ, एवरी वन इज हैविंग लिंक. ओके, तो उसके अंदर तुमको बुक भी मिल जाएगा. कि तो वो उतना पढ़ लो, तुम्हारा गूगल माइक्रोसॉफ्ट में लड़ने लायक बन जाएगा. तो अगर इन फ्यूचर 1 साल 2 साल, मेरे स्टूडेंट्स को लिटरली 3 साल बाद मौका मिला. दे हैड अ फ्रेंड के जो गूगल में काम कर रहा है, ही गिव अ रिकमेंडेशन. बट वहाँ पे अल्गोरिदम्स और ये सब पूछते वही वाला डायनामिक प्रोग्रामिंग एंड ऑल, बट एडवांस लेवल का. वो तुम बुक पढ़ोगे तुम्हें समझ में आ जाएगा. सो वट एवर यू हैव स्टडीड इन अ syllabus was quite 2 to 3% of it, and there is a whole new level which is waiting for you. But whatever you have studied in a semester जो already बहुत सारा content था, it was just a small part, and later things you have to prepare on your own. Okay, so जैसे अगर देखो, मुद्दे की बात यह है ना कि ध्यान से सुनना कि 30-35 लाख का पैकेज चाहिए ना, तो फिर तैयारी भी वैसी करनी पड़ती है. आई सेड 30-35. So those who understood the number and heard the number properly, write in chat box. कितना, 30 या 35 लाख का अगर पैकेज मिलता है, तो उसके लिए फिर तुम्हें तैयारी भी वैसे ही करनी पड़ती है. ओके, सो राइट 30-35 इन चैट बॉक्स, वॉट एवर नंबर यू वुड लाइक टू हैव. अरे भौतिक, तुम ना उम्मीद ही बहुत छोटी रख रहे हो. 30-35 मिलता है. ओके, तो ये आईटी वाले साइड में ही बैठे हुए हैं कहीं पे लैब में, अभी जिन्होंने कैमरा ऑन किया था. ओके, फाइन. या फिर कोई फर्स्ट ईयर वाले घुस आए हैं, यही बैठे रहते हैं इधर ही, बाजू वाले CC1 CC2 में अड्डा बना के. So now we'll go back to the stuff again, that base classes are either publicly inherited, privately inherited, or protectively inherited. So you are creating a child. So we will try to see the complications. What happens when our base class is privately derived by the derived class, privately derived by the child class, the public member of a base class become private member of the derived class. Typical bookish line which is quite difficult to understand. I will simplify it कि एक base class है, means parent class है, which is having, see, parent class is having variable x, and from that you create another C for child class. So x is public, x is public variable in parent class. So if you derive it privately, x will become private variable in child class. X will become private variable in child class. That is what they mean to say. See, if you read the book, they will write very abstract and difficult lines like this, but it have a quite simple example, simple meaning behind it. Okay, so base class, private inheritance. When a base class is privately derived by the derived class, the public member of a base class become private member of a derived class. And once it becomes private member of any class cannot be accessed outside, from outside by creating the object. If the variable is private, it cannot be accessed from outside. एक ही तरीका है, अगर तुम फ्रेंड बनो तो कर सकते हो. जैसे क्या होता है, पापा का जो वॉलेट है, इट इज़ अ प्राइवेट वेरिएबल. ओके, जहाँ से तुम पैसे नहीं निकाल सकते. ओके, नो वन एल्स कैन, ओके, नो वन एल्स कैन क्रिएट ऑब्जेक्ट ऑफ यू एंड यू कैन एक्सेस द मनी देयर. लेकिन पापा का एक फ्रेंड क्लास है जो है मम्मी. So that friend class can access the private data members there, so the access is given, so वहां से पैसा निकल सकता है. Okay, it is that kind of analogy. Now therefore the member, just wait, therefore the members of the derived class can only access the public member of a base class. You can access only public members, not private, and they are inaccessible to the object of a derived class. So if you read Balaguru Swami you will see this, or during the written test, uh, in the object oriented programming concept section, you will get the lines like this, and you will be asked, okay, whether it is true or false. And when you look at these lines, these are quite confusing and difficult lines, so always try to पिक्चराइज दिस एक्सपीरियंस के ओके ये पब्लिक है और इसका लेकिन इसका इनहेरिटेंस प्राइवेट किया गया और फिर चाइल्ड क्रिएट हुआ है, सो इट विल नॉट वर्क. ओके, इट इज इनएक्सेसिबल by creating object of derived class or child class. So I remember all these things in terms of parent and child. That is why I always talk about the base class and derived class as a parent class and child class. Easy to remember. Okay, no member of a base class is accessible to the object of a derived class because inheritance कैसा है, private. Access allowed नहीं. Public, see, simple thing, public can be accessed by anyone, private no one can access, protected only child can access. Protected मतलब सिर्फ अपना बच्चा कर सकता है, वो भी immediate child, ऐसा मल्टी लेवल वाला child भी नहीं चलेगा. Okay, public variable can be accessed by creating the object of anyone, means parent also, child also. Protected variable only child can access, no one else. And private variable no one can access from outside. Child भी नहीं और कोई third party भी नहीं. Only inside the class it can be accessed. So now inheritance, some of the base class data elements and member functions are now see after looking at understanding, looking at the examples and looking at understanding the inheritance, finally we came to the slide. ओके कि ये था क्या. इट इज़ काइंड ऑफ न्यू एज स्टोरी टेलिंग मैकेनिज्म, जिसमें पहले आपको थोड़ा कुछ दिखा देते, बाद में बताते हैं कि ओके 5 साल बाद पहले क्या था. नाउ वी आर कमिंग टू द बेसिक डेफिनेशन. So in inheritance, some of the data members and functions, data member functions of a parent class are used in a child class or are inherited to the see inherited to the derived or child class. See inheritance को define के लिए करने के लिए inherited word use करना थोड़ा awkward है. Generally we should not use the word inheritance to define the inheritance. That is why the data member means कौन, variables और some data type array वगैरह कुछ create किया हो तो in the parent class, and member function means whatever the functions we are having in a parent class can be used in child class. Now we can add our own data and member functions for extending the functionality of a base class. जैसे हमने hybrid inheritance में modifications किए हैं, and we can add our own functionality, and this is powerful tool for incremental program development. Now this is the word you should have in your speech or in your discussion, that incremental program development, because this is the key, this is the answer to the question why do you want to use inheritance. Incremental program development means सामने वाले ने थोड़ा काम करके रखा है, I am just using his work and modifying it, customizing it. I use the word customize, and then I am creating my own version. So I am incrementing it. I am adding some extra functionality. As we have already seen, the private data member can't be accessed in a derived class. It will stay there, and you are using the existing data to create something new. So if you want to access the, now next question is what we should do if we want to access the private members in a derived class. So for that reason, we will see this by making the visibility limit in the private data member to the public. No, bad idea, because when you make the very visibility public, anyone can see it. So we can create a protectedness. What is the protected? See, as I told you a few minutes back, public variable, if the variable is public or function is publicly defined, it can be accessed from anywhere. If you make it private, no one can access it from outside. That is why we create it as a protected variable. So when it is protected, it can be accessed by only childs. Child means multiple children or derived class, but it should be immediate child. ऐसे नहीं, बच्चे का बच्चा नहीं चलेगा, only अपना बच्चा. Okay, if we declare the member as a public, it will allow all the outsider function to access. Problem, data privacy loss हो जाएगी. तो data heading का क्या होगा? So the visibility modifier protected can be used for this purpose. The member declared as a protected is accessible by the member function within the class and any class immediately derived. ये immediately word बहुत important है, क्योंकि as I told you कि सिर्फ अपना बच्चा, बच्चे का बच्चा भी नहीं चलेगा. Okay, non बच्चा तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं चलेगा. So if the variable is protected, in that case it can be accessed from only inside the class, that means yourself, or next immediate child can access it, no one else. So public, private, protected. So if you get a question, you should be clear that what is the difference between public access, private access, and protected access control, access modifier, visibility modifier. So it cannot be accessed by the functions outside the two classes, the protected member for controlling. So point number one, when the protected member means simply the way you, if you do not write anything before the variable, by default it will be private. If you write public, it will be public. When you write protected, it is protected. So when the protected member is inherited in a public mode, it becomes protected in a derived class. Versus यहाँ पे गड़बड़ क्या है, द वेरिएबल कैन बी पब्लिक प्राइवेट प्रोटेक्टेड, और उसका डेरिवेशन चाइल्ड बनाने के टाइम पे चाइल्ड को कैसे पैदा किया, पब्लिक प्राइवेट या प्रोटेक्टेड, दैट इज अनदर गेम. ओके, सो बेस्ड ऑन दैट द एक्सेस मॉडिफिकेशन विल चेंज. कैसे एक्सेस होगा, करेंगे, कर सकते हैं कि नहीं कर सकते हैं. सो पब्लिक वेरिएबल को प्राइवेटली इनहेरिट करो तो वो प्राइवेट बन जाएगा. देन यू कैन नॉट क्रिएट ऑब्जेक्ट एंड एक्सेस द वैल्यू इन चाइल्ड क्लास. सो ये पूरा एक चार्ट है जो तुमको बाद में मिलेगा. दैट विल बी एंड ऑफ द टुडेज सेशन आफ्टर 2 or 3 slides kind of. So why we are doing it, we are using these combinations to protect the data values from getting inherited अनविलिंगली. तुम चाहते हो कि तुम यूज करो, तुम्हारा चाइल्ड यूज करे, डन, और कोई यूज नहीं कर पाएगा, मेक इट प्रोटेक्टेड. सो ये क्या है कि तुम पावर कंट्रोल कर रहे हो. ओडिन यूज कर सकता है, थॉर यूज कर सकता है, बाकी कोई नहीं. अब तो रिसेंटली एक लेडी भी आई है, जेन फॉस्टर, वो भी यूज करने वाली है. ओके, सो दे आर पुटिंग अ स्पेल कि चलो ये भी अपने फ्रेंड है, वो फ्रेंड बन गए ना फैमिली में, शी कैन यूज इट. सो व्हेन अ प्रोटेक्टेड मेंबर इज इनहेरिटेड इन अ पब्लिक मोड, it becomes protected in a derived class. When the protected member is inherited in private mode, सब कुछ same है, variable is protected, but at one place you are inheriting as a, so the variable is protected, so I will write it as a prot. Okay, so that protected variable, if you inherit in public mode, or you can inherit it in a private mode. So if you inherit it in a private mode, your variable will become private in a child class, and if you inherit it in a public mode, it will become protected in a child class. What is the meaning of protected? इसका मतलब ये हुआ आसान भाषा में, in simple words, what is the implication of this? Let us go to the left hand side, that if the variable is protected and you are publicly inheriting it, and the variable becomes protected in child class, what is the thing about the protected variable? It can be accessed by the class and the next immediate child. That means आसान भाषा में कि जो भी पावर्स या डेटा वैल्यूज ग्रैंड पेरेंट से मिलने वाले हैं, वो पेरेंट अपने चाइल्ड को दे सकता है. ओनली हिज चाइल्ड can use it. Okay, or once, and if you inherit it privately, then no one else can access it. Means if you, there is a, the variable is privately, when protected, it is protected and you privately inherit, then that power cannot be shared by anyone else. मतलब आसान भाषा में ग्रैंड पेरेंट क्या करते हैं, पावर पेरेंट को देते हैं और बोलते हैं अब तुम किसी को नहीं दे सकते बेटा. दैट वेरिएबल विच कैन बी एक्सेस्ड by the parent, they cannot give it to anyone else. So जो child है कौन सा वाला, red child, I will create one red child. So this is a child, red color वाला child. So this child, for this child, this variable is private. Now it can access the variable from the grandparent. Okay, लेकिन अगर इसका कोई child बनाते हैं, okay, छोटा सा, so that cannot access the variable. And this is the whole drama behind this public private protected variables and their derivation type, that whether we create a child class in public derivation, private derivation, or protected. And here is a scope for creation of a lot of confusion during the interviews ki iska kya hoga batao. Okay, so they are accessible by the member function of the derived class हो सकता है, और private accessible नहीं होगा. Now they are ready for further inheritance. See, book में लिखी हुई मिलेगी ये line कि they are ready for further inheritance. That means a child class can create one more child and they can pass on that variable to the child's child, means grandchildren. But that is not possible with the private inheritance. That is difference between publicly inheriting and privately inheriting the stuff. Now protected derivation, it is possible to public देख लिया, private देख लिया, protected का क्या? It is possible to inherit the base class in protected mode. Protected derivation, in the protected derivation both public and protected variable will become protected and private will remain private cannot be derived, so we don't have to think about it. Okay, so this is the example where we are looking at this. Simply there is one class manager और उसका हम ऑब्जेक्ट क्रिएट कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, सो मैनेजर क्लास में क्या है? सो क्लास मैनेजर is protectedly derived from the worker, and now there is one variable now which is private, no problem, यहीं पे यूज हो रहा है, बाहर नहीं जा रहा. Public, and now we are seeing two extra variable, name and age, which is not present here. So देखते हैं इसके पेरेंट में, इसका पेरेंट कौन है? वर्कर. सो दिस इज द वर्कर, और यहाँ पे नेम है, एज है. Okay, and these variables are taken from here, and what we are doing, name, age, we are taking from here and displaying. What we'll do, I thought it will give error. Yes, it will give error. क्यों इसने error दिया? Because see, ये जो दोनों variable है, ये कौन है? ये private है. Now these two variables are private. So private variable, नाम ही private दिया हुआ है, so private variable cannot be accessed by the child also. और इस child ने private variable access करने की गुस्ताखी की, so he will not be allowed to access the data and it will give error. पूरा प्रोग्राम देखने में एकदम सही लगता है लेकिन एरर देगा. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to change. So now coming to the climax of the story of inheritance a little bit, the effect of inheritance on the visibility members. So whenever the variable is private, it is not inheritable. Private variable child class में access होगा ही नहीं. So this slide is summary of the whole lecture. Okay, in a way, but in a way, so if you have to understand it, you must listen the last 1.5 hour of talk whatever I spoke. So now private variable, it is not accessible. If the variable is protected, then if you publicly inherit class B, the protected variable will become protected, public variable will remain public. So we are publicly inheriting, no change. Private का कुछ नहीं होने वाला, not inheritable. Protected will remain protected. Protected means what? A class can access that variable as well as its immediate child, no one else. And public variable will remain public. Now talking about the another category, that okay, if I do the same thing but private inheritance, I am creating another class D, private inheritance. In private inheritance, private protected variable will become private and public variable will also become private. That means now child cannot give that power or that variable to anyone else. Child अपना child बना के variable को access नहीं दे सकता. So रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया से कि मेरे पास डेटा है, तुम एक्सेस कर सकते हो एक्सिस बैंक को, लेकिन एक्सिस बैंक उस डेटा का एक्सेस किसी और को नहीं दे सकता. इट इज दैट काइंड ऑफ स्टफ. सो यू राइट द कोड टू कंट्रोल द लीकेज ऑफ डेटा. Now you are creating another child which is actually from the from the multiple inheritance where you are having multiple parents. So public D1 and protected D2. So protected from one side and private public from another side. So public variable will become public and the protected variable will remain protected, because from D1 who is actually child of a B, so it will remain protected variables. Public variable will become protected because D2 को कैसे inherit किया है, in protected way, and protected variable will remain also protected. Look at this chart, it is saying the same thing. Private के देखो, private की पूरी रो में क्या लिखा हुआ है, it is written as not inherited, not inherited, not inherited. Private variable का कभी inheritance होता ही नहीं है. That's it. तो तुम्हारी पहला रो तो क्लियर हो गई. Private no entry. Protected होगा, see and just look at the public. Public को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, public जो है जैसे रहने देता है, no change. So if the variable is private, not inherited, protected, protected, public, public, go through the column. Private inheritance will see, next inheritance is a private inheritance, it will convert everything to private, protected, public both, and protected will convert everything to protected. So it is very easy to remember this chart, and around this chart so many confusing questions can be created. As you can imagine कि ये combo create करो बस, एक variable public है उसको privately inherit किया तो क्या होगा, publicly inherit किया होगा तो, और privately inherit किया तो क्या होगा. So 3 question for private, 3 question for protected, 3 question for public. So बैठे बैठे इस चार्ट के अंदर 9 questions, 9 combinations can be created कि ऐसा होगा तो फिर whether it is accessible, whether the variable will be public, private, or protected. These set of questions can be created. Okay, so that's it for today. Okay, if you have any doubts, we can meet later on. Mm, okay, anyone have any questions? You can write in chat box, or you can leave. No problem. Okay, before leaving, uh, yeah, you can leave or write okay in chat box and then you can leave.